They thought I would surrender my home, but they had no idea the war they had just started. When the HOA board sent me that letter, neatly folded with their smug little logo in the corner, I almost laughed. They believed one stamped envelope could strip me of everything I'd worked for. My house wasn't just walls and a roof. It was my late father's legacy, my mother's memories, the soil where my family bled, sweated, and built a future. And yet, the HOA dared to tell me I didn't fit the community aesthetic. The arrogance burned into me, but what they didn't know was that I wasn't the type to bow. I wasn't about to hand them my home. No. I was about to dismantle their entire plan, piece by piece. The first rehook hit when I walked into that board meeting. Their smirks told me they expected a beaten man, someone begging for mercy. Instead, I sat down, silent, my eyes fixed on each of them as if I were memorizing their weaknesses. "You've violated landscaping guidelines, parking ordinances, and fence regulations," the chairwoman said in a syrupy voice. I let her list roll on, my jaw tight, but inside, I was already unraveling their little empire. They thought I was defenseless, just another homeowner trapped in their net. But I had already started gathering files, records, and whispered testimonies from neighbors who'd been bullied the same way. They wanted war, I'd give them one. What they didn't expect was how fast I'd flip the script. That very night, under a dim kitchen light, I spread their bylaws across my table like a battlefield map. Every clause, every amendment, they'd buried contradictions inside their own rules. They fined me for having a truck in my driveway, yet one board member's son parked his camper outside for months without penalty. They claimed my garden was non-compliant, yet the vice president's yard looked like a jungle. Hypocrisy everywhere, and hypocrisy is ammunition. The rehook here is this: they weren't just targeting me, they were exposing themselves, and I was the one writing it all down. The next twist came when I uncovered the real motive. Buried deep in the minutes of old meetings, I discovered a development plan, one that required my property for community expansion. They didn't want my grass shorter or my driveway clearer. They wanted my land. They wanted to push me out so they could sell it off to investors. That realization struck like a blade in the dark. This wasn't personal, until it was. Now it was war on a scale they couldn't even imagine. And I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was going to attack. Weeks turned into months, and every time they thought they'd broken me, I came back harder. They issued fines daily, but I refused to pay. They threatened liens, and I countered with legal notices of my own, citing every contradiction in their rules. Neighbors started whispering about me. Some thought I was insane, others called me brave. The board tried to paint me as a reckless rebel, but the truth started to leak. People began noticing their own fines, their own injustices. The more they tried to silence me, the louder the community grew. The HOA wasn't fighting one man anymore. They were fighting a spark that had turned into wildfire. Then came the night of the ambush. I'll never forget it. A neighbor slipped me an envelope under my door, a confidential memo from inside the board. It revealed they were holding a secret vote to fast-track foreclosure on my home. The plan was to catch me off guard, declare me in default, and take the property before I could react. They thought they'd corner me, but I didn't just react. I turned it into their downfall. I showed up at the meeting, uninvited, holding the memo high for everyone to see. Gasps rippled through the room as I read their secret plan aloud, line by line. Faces turned pale, alliances cracked, and suddenly the board members were accusing each other, shouting in panic. My rehook to the viewers: this was no longer a story of survival. This was the beginning of their collapse. But I wasn't done. I dug deeper, following money trails like a detective in a crime thriller. I found proof of embezzlement, funds allocated for community maintenance that vanished into board members' pockets. I collected photos, signatures, bank records. Piece by piece, I built a case so airtight that even their lawyers couldn't breathe. The irony was delicious. They wanted to destroy me using their rules, but I was about to bury them with the truth. The climax came when I filed a lawsuit that shook the foundation of the entire HOA. Courtrooms aren't glamorous, fluorescent lights, cold air, but in that space I felt like a warrior drawing a sword. I presented everything, the contradictions, the embezzlement, the corruption. The board members squirmed under the judge's gaze, their arrogance stripped away. They had no defense, and when the gavel finally struck, the HOA wasn't just defeated, it was dismantled. The judge ordered investigations, audits, resignations. What once was their fortress of control crumbled into dust. And my house? My house stood untouched. Not only did I keep it, but I also became the symbol of resistance in the community. Neighbors who once feared the board started approaching me, shaking my hand, thanking me for standing up. I didn't just protect my home, I gave them their freedom back. And the sweetest twist? The same board members who tried to take everything from me ended up losing their positions, their money, and their reputations. Some even faced charges. Their empire was gone, and I had destroyed their entire plan. But here's the final rehook. People think stories like this end with victory. But the truth is, power always tries to crawl back. Months later, whispers of a new board began circulating. Some said they wanted to rebuild the HOA, stronger than before. Maybe they believed the community had forgotten, or that I'd grown tired. But they don't know me. They never did. If they come for me again, I'll be ready. Because I've already shown them the truth. When you push someone too far, when you try to steal their home, their legacy, their life, you awaken something that doesn't surrender. You awaken someone who fights back until the empire burns. So, if you're watching this, understand one thing. They thought I would surrender my home. Instead, I destroyed their entire plan. And if they try again, I won't just fight back, I'll end them before they even begin.